What Ike Allen and Andy Anderson have created at Avaiya is what the world needs.
Hello, Avaiya family. I'm Brielle Starr, online event coordinator for Avaiya. Avaiya is the creator of over 1,000 books, films, courses, teachings, and other supportive resources. Thank you so much for joining us. Our fellow teachers, Dr. Elsbeth Moit and Freddy Zental Weaver, are with us today to talk about tantric intimacy. Dr. Elsbeth and Freddy have assisted thousands of couples and singles to create lasting intimacy and fulfillment in their life and relationships. They are the best-selling authors of Sexual Enlightenment, and they are also the co-founders of Tantra Nova Institute in Chicago and the originators of June 1st National Intimacy Day. Welcome back to Avaiya, Dr. Elsbeth and Freddy.
Well, thank you so much.
Nice to be here.
So excited to see you again.
Yes, I am so delighted to see both of you. So glad to learn from you today about tantric intimacy. I'd love to learn about how you came to start sharing this tantric intimacy message that you share.
Wow. Well, I was first introduced to a lot of the practices we teach when I was 13, living in Hawaii, going through my puberty. And my father, who was a practicing psychiatrist, took pity on me and gave me a book to read on how to integrate sex and meditation, sexual meditation. And that was my first introduction. And then moving here to Chicago, meeting Elsbeth, I went through a 2-year program to teach this that Elsbeth had gone through. And we started our work. That was 25 years ago.
Beautiful, lovely. So lovely to hear about that. Did you want to share anything about that, Elsbeth?
Yeah, so my upbringing was very different. I didn't have a dad who gave me a book on sex consciousness when I was a teenager. I don't know about you, Brielle, but that is not what was customary in my house. I grew up in Germany, came to the United States to do postgraduate work in music in my late 20s, and then stayed on. Became a management consultant. And then when I hit 50, I got very despaired about relationship because I had this pattern of attracting unavailable men. And while that was exciting, most of the time I was alone. And I could see the trajectory. If I was not going to change that pattern, I would end up without lasting intimacy and love in my life. And I did not want to settle for that. And that was my entry into the practice of Tantra in terms of taking it on as a discipline, as a, daily practice. So it was so life-shifting for me that I decided that I wanted to become a Tantra teacher. And most importantly, what I discovered through the Tantric healing practice was that I had held distrust towards men. No wonder that I attracted unavailability if there was something underneath. So that got cleared, and 6 months later, Freddy Zental came into my life.
Ta-da!
And he was ready, although he was in corporate America at that time too. But both of us left corporate America, pulled our resources. I already had gotten Tantra certification. Freddy followed, and
Here we are.
yes.
It was the best thing that could have happened in terms of, for me, really bringing forth my creative, authentic self. I mean, we all have these things that we do, pockets of things that really, really light us up. And sometimes it's not what we do to create income or even the best thing we could be doing or sharing in the world or in our life. So I was very lucky to have found this, to be able to integrate all the things I love to do and be able to do some good in the world.
To find this or to find me?
Well, you're kind of hand in hand. You and this came together.
It came together,
Yeah.
yes.
Yes.
Anyway, and it was like we, were brought together to share this with couples and individuals, with men and women. So we are very happy to share a little bit more about the opportunity today.
Yeah, absolutely. I love hearing about both of you and your journeys and how you came together and found this work and are impacting so many people with this amazing work that you do. So it's always fun to hear about how that came about. And so could you tell me a little bit about how tantric intimacy has to do with feeling fulfilled in life and love and relationship?
Yeah, I can start that off. Oftentimes people hear about Tantra and they think, oh, that's the sexy yoga. We'll have better orgasms and more sex. And all of that is true and it will affect that. Yet, we've been procreating forever. That's what this energy does, sexual energy. In the last 100 or so years, recreating with the development of contraceptives. So what we're teaching is how to co-create with this intelligent energy. When we're in it, we're more open, loving, vulnerable, receptive. Chemically, we're changed, more endorphins, serotonin, oxytocin, the feel-good hormones. It's an altered state. So we're teaching specific distinctions around breath, energy awareness, and intention to then get more unmasked to what we don't see around something we want more of in our life.
Yeah, and that leads then, when we become more integrated or reintegrated in ourselves, leads to greater fulfillment. So, what do we mean by reintegrating? Most of us, when we grow up, we start compartmentalizing the different dimensions of ourselves. And in terms of love, intimacy, and the sexual self, that all are intrinsically connected. They don't have to show up together. However, when they show up together, that can be really, you know, lead us to experiencing bliss. So for us, the three dimensions are the sexual self, the love and heart self, and the mental, spiritual, consciousness self. And one is not better than the other because we are both heavenly beings and earthly beings. So our sexual being really connects us to this earthly way, where we feel, where we sense, where we experience pleasure, like orgasm is part of that. And then, of course, also our consciousness self, our higher self. And in the tantric practice, we learn to actually connect them because they are connected through our life force energy that moves up from the base of the spine to the top of the head. And life force energy can show up in subtle states or in aroused states. So when we start doing the work, we get to see where we may be compartmentalized, that my heart may be disconnected from my sex, or my sex disconnected from my heart. I may have closed off my heart because it was not safe at some point to be open and vulnerable and share myself. And that may have been the time when I decided it's not safe, where shame comes up, where I want to cover myself both figuratively and literally. And so in the tantric practice, we get to heal that so we can come into this inner flow. When we are in flow, then we feel fulfilled.
Mhm. Yes, beautifully said. I love that idea of feeling fulfilled, feeling in the flow of things. And I really appreciate you bringing up shame there. I know that this is something that so many people deal with, whether it be in just sexual context or all context of life in general. Is there any ways that the practice of Tantra can assist in freeing ourselves from shame, guilt, or embarrassment?
Yeah, absolutely. When we are in a sexual meditation, the way we're sharing and teaching it, again, the elements of that sexual energy, creativity and pleasure. And when we bring consciousness to creativity, that sexual energy, creativity and pleasure start showing up in areas of life that seem completely unrelated to sex and the simple process of living. So if I'm like in a shameful place about my sexuality or about my being sexual with myself or my partners, then when I'm in a sexual meditation, I start to tune into the frequency, the feeling, the vibration of that place. So I can start to get some distinctions around how it shows up in my body, how it feels, what color is it, what shape, what sound, and all of that, to then get a little bit of a distance from it, to give it some shape, so it's not like all that I am, and resign to that there's nothing else I can be but that feeling. So that's how we start to step away and get some distance from these old stories and these old automaticities.
Also, let's be clear that shame, fear, and guilt are not individual emotions. They are collective emotions. Like everybody experiences them, and particularly around the intimate, the sexual. It's not like that, oh, I have created that emotion in myself. No, I probably inherited it from my mother or from my father or, from the environment. So there is that dimension, and then that gets further embellished when we grow up.
What is interesting, though, is that we also, when we are in our sexual selves and that intimate vulnerability, is a collective experience in terms of individually, I feel it, yet we all have felt that. And we know that vulnerability, yet we live in a Machiavellian world where it's like a security world and we're in war and we're looking out and this is mine and this is yours. And so we're also in that world. So when we're in that intimate vulnerability that we all know in the sexual energy, we can oftentimes shut down because of this other aspect of living that we live in. So when we first started our work, I remember telling Elsbeth that I thought, this was really about peace on earth, and Elsbeth said, don't say that because people are coming here like peace on earth. I just want a better orgasm, But once you start bringing consciousness to this and the way we're teaching it, you start to get that it's not just in the bedroom, but it's everywhere.
Yeah. And it's that coming to being at ease with oneself. Now, of course, like in our practice, and I don't mean just Freddy and I, but in the practices we teach, it's really we move towards it. There is not suddenly when people arrive, okay, now we do sexual practices. No, we actually do these sexual practices at an advanced level. Because if we go there too quickly, we may shut down too quickly. Or the same that we have been used to for decades, perhaps, that just kicks in because the sexual energy is like anger energy. It's an impulse. It's not that we decide, oh, today I want to feel sexual. Now, I can, of course, say, okay, let's connect intimately today, and then we prepare it, and so that we rock ourselves into the feeling. But the feeling itself shows up at some moment, Now, through the tantric practice, what we can learn is then to embellish that feeling, and through the breath, because breath carries energy. Without the breath, there is no life force energy. When we don't breathe, we die. So we use the breath to guide the energy, and orgasm is an energy, is frequency. It's a sensation that I not only experience or can experience in my sexual center, which we call like a local orgasm. I can breathe that orgasm up and move it through me, that I feel it at the top of my head or my fingertips. Or then we can circulate energy with each other.
It's interesting because learning the practices of how to do that are available to anyone when they just get some of the basic distinctions of how to do this.
We brought a little ball here to demonstrate how orgasmic energy is based in energy, and how that lives within us and how that lives with each other. Do you want to do it?
Yeah, so this is an energy ball, and when I connect with myself, you can see the connection and how it works.
Wait a minute, let's turn this on.
Can you see?
Yeah.
And here, good. And then when I add Elsbeth to it.
Okay, let's bring it up. So.
Here and here. And when she breaks a connection, she breaks the circuit. It works on, open and closed systems like a light switch, but we are the connection. And so we can all feel vibration. You can go into a room and feel good vibes or bad vibes, but we oftentimes start to, analyze it and play with it, and we discount it. So when we start tuning into the frequency of something, we can start to really tune into another aspect of another reality that we're living in too.
Yeah. And so we are here on a roll, but maybe continue.
But yeah, please, if you have something you want to interject, please do.
So, go ahead.
So because given that we are here as a couple, we really want to also share how that can play out, in couplehood, like moving my own energy in self-love. That is one aspect that we strongly recommend to practice. And then we move and channel energy together. So that for the men in the tantric practice, he learns to move us literally the orgasmic feeling from his lingam, from this, our friend, the lingam, up into his heart.
Yeah. And that separation starts to open up a new possibility for men
Speak
because,
about the separation. What's
so,
separating?
okay, we're talking about orgasm and ejaculation. So the ejaculatory process, automaticity is when we ejaculate and we have that wonderful orgasmic feeling. And most guys think it just goes hand in hand. You can't have one without the other. Yet we can learn to separate them with our breath awareness, muscle awareness, and energetic awareness. And when we do that, for men particularly, we start to decouple, separate, start to get some distance from the automatic lusting that appears for men, particularly for the opposite sex. Women, we have many couples come to us and she's like, I don't know if he loves me. And he's like, of course I love you, honey. Look at, pointing at his erection. And she's like, yeah, but can you kiss me with your heart? And that's not something that men learn. We learn two emotions that are socially okay, and that's, sex or fighting. But in terms of
You
intimacy
can say fucking or fighting.
okay, great, thank you. Fucking or fighting. But intimacy, vulnerability is not something that's okay in the male lingo. So when we start to bring awareness to this wonderful intimate vulnerability that happens in the sexual, that altered state, we can start to open up a new possibility of emotional awareness, emotional possibility, and also being able to listen to our partners.
Yeah, that so many of us women, long for so much. Now, this practice is not just for heterosexual couples. This is for same-sex couples, for bisexual couples, for transgender couples, because in any relationship, there is the yin and yang, or feminine and masculine, and not just in gender terms, but in the dynamic. Otherwise, if that is not there, there's no magnetism. So I want to say, when a man opens up like that, channels his energy into his heart and opens his heart, I, as the woman, really want to honor that, because that is where a man then goes into his own vulnerability. And that is where I want to be there and honor him, honor that. And what opens up then also is that, like, when he breathes it up into his heart, I feel it, and my heart center opens. Because most women, or the one who is in their feminine, when they want to connect, they start feeling it in their heart center. And so my heart opens, and when my heart opens, my sexual center opens. So that is then the yoni, the sacred space.
It's a really big
woman.
one.
It's a beautiful one. So then we have a circuit. My heart opens, my yoni opens, my sexual center or sacred space. And then I connect with my intention and with the breath into Freddy's sexual center up. He breathes it up into his heart. And then we have a circuit, just like this ball that we just... And so we want to learn that, because when we are in synchronicity, it's much easier to let go. Also of these feelings that may constrict us, like fear or shame, and it may hit us in the middle of something. And what about if my partner then just holds me and we breathe together? So I can drop into the embrace, and I can drop into whatever had me at that moment, and it can trickle out so that I can be fully present again.
Yeah, I was going to add that, once we start bringing consciousness in this, again, altered state, this intimate vulnerability with awareness of breath and energy and circulating, we start to, it's not just a bedroom trick. What starts to become aware or present is when we are in an argument or a disconnect in our just regular lives, we can recognize it more quickly. Things don't stop going on. They just don't stick around as long. We have choice now to be able to come back to that feeling, that frequency, that connection in terms of a senior commitment of what I'm creating in my life, how am I living my life, what am I wanting to bring more of in my life. And this is the practical application of how this really affects how we're living.
Mhm. Yes, absolutely amazing. So much great information there. And I really appreciate you both addressing that shame and that guilt and that fear that some people might be feeling. And I also really appreciate what you brought up, Freddie, about how a lot of men don't think of intimacy very much, and they're trained to just want to have sex or to fight and don't necessarily consider maybe that really softer side or getting in touch with that. So I love that you shared about that. And you clearly both do this work together, the practice of tantric intimacy. Can this practice also, though, benefit single people equally?
Absolutely. And go
It's
ahead.
my turn.
Oh yeah, go ahead. She's got a knife under here. She's cutting my leg whenever I speak out of turn. So that's why I shut the heck up right away. Boom, boom. Go ahead.
So, actually, all energy, all my emotions, all my feelings, all my thoughts, no matter what happens outside, no matter what Freddy does, no matter what the weather is like, my thoughts, emotions, and sensations are generated over here because my nervous system is over here. So if I wish to have a more fulfilling relationship or bring in a fulfilling relationship, I want to engage with myself and see, who am I fulfilled in here? And so I came to Tantra as a solo person because Freddy was not in my life yet. My whole intention for the practice then was to discover what was in the way for me to bring lasting intimacy and love into my life. Because it was like a film in front of my eyes. I knew there was something, but I didn't know how to remove it. And through that tantric healing, that opened up because I tapped into a level of my being that is not accessible through the conscious mind. So you cannot talk about it. Oh no, everything is fine. Really? And underneath in the subconscious, that is where the distrust towards men resided. And so I started out the practice by myself, and to this day I have my own practices, my own daily meditation practices, my self-love practices, and then we have meditation practices together. We have connection practices, we have tantric body work practices that we do together, where we move energy just in that circular motion. So when I want to be intimate with another, I want to make sure that I'm intimately connected with myself. Yes, and there the solo practice comes in. And this practice is not just for people if they want to be in a relationship or are already in a relationship and do some solo practice around that. No, you can be very happy solo for the rest of your life. These practices are to enhance the connection with yourself, your physical body, your emotional body, your mental and your spiritual body, so that they can flow together, communicate with each other. And then, we can move subtle energy through us, we can move aroused energy through us, and it can feel quite blissful because then when I'm in flow like that, I feel whole. And when I feel whole, I feel fulfilled, and I bring this then to relationship.
I wanted to add one thing just to not beat up too bad on the man, that, when we are in our sexual selves, which is often, first of all, it's protruding. So it's outside of ourselves. It's always boing hitting us, right? Especially when we start into puberty. It's in those moments of sexual, arousal, that altered state, when we can let go of this macho stuff that we are, socialized and modeled to be. So a lot of the intimacy and a lot of the vulnerability start to become accessible to us in that sexual moment. And so once again, we bring consciousness to it, that becomes available outside of the moment. So we expand our emotional possibility. That's what I wanted to add.
Yeah, totally. Thank you for adding that. And I loved hearing about how people can take this journey on, whether they have a partner or whether they're single. It's great to know that it's a journey for anyone, no matter where they're at in life and their experiences. And you both have touched on this super briefly, but I wanted to ask you about how this conscious use of creative life force energy can turbocharge one's life and or work even.
Mm.
Yeah, so at first we want to open up that channel, I said earlier, we may have closed off certain dimensions within us because it may have not felt safe, or we were violated, we felt betrayed, all kinds of stuff. And that could have happened when we were an infant, a child, an adolescent. And to cope with life, we then protect ourselves, which means in energetic terms, we constrict, we contract, because it's like, protecting. And that has its place, and we honor that. However, often when we are then in our adult life and we want to fully experience, we want to bring something into our life that we may never have experienced before, then the constriction that was placed there earlier in life is then in the way. And so this is what we want to open up and clear, heal. And of course, that's not done in half an hour. It may take a little journey to go there. And then by opening the channel, we may come up against some constrictions, and then we listen to that. We breathe through it. There are practices, particular practices that we can open up further, first and foremost to myself. Because again, back to the shame and guilt and fear or embarrassment, it lives over here. Beautiful if there's a partner who can hold space for me while I move through that. And we teach couples practices that are specifically designed for sexual healing, where one is the giver and the other one is the receiver. Now back to the channel, opening up the channel that allows then also for moving up that pleasureful, creative, orgasmic, blissful, life-giving energy all the way up into my third eye. And from there, I channel it into a project or writing a book or bringing in the beloved, an intention. So what I want to create in life gets fueled then through that wonderful creative energy, because sexual energy is the most potent creative energy, given that it brings forth life. And if it brings forth life, guess what? I can bring forth my wishes, my intentions.
Given that this energy was creating life before we had language, and the essence, the kernel of it is creativity and pleasure, when we start listening to that frequency, when we are creative in a creative space, that's pleasure, that's creativity. And that's like, you could call it sexual energy or not. It's like when we bring consciousness again to the sexual, we're reminded of something we've forgotten, which is that creative essence that, that's like our lineage. So we're remembering what we've forgotten, really.
And then, the shame, the fear, the guilt, the embarrassment gets transmuted into this aliveness that Freddy just described. And playfulness arises, joy. It's no longer coming from protecting, not intentionally, not by design, just by that what we gotten used to. And then because sexual energy and life force energy is all about being alive and playing and joyful, just like kids. And that gets reawakened. And then you can, I can be fully present now in the play of connecting with self or with the beloved.
Mm-hmm. Yes, beautifully said. Thank you both so much for sharing about that. It's amazing to hear how this journey or this practice can really benefit us in so many ways, such as that sexual healing, or really just bringing that creative life force energy into our lives and creating the lives that we dream of.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that you guys are offering a great free gift today that people can dive even deeper with you and the work you do. And that is called Tantric Intimacy ebook, if you would like to tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, so in the Tantric Intimacy ebook, we lay out the foundational steps. It's not a long read, so you can look it over. There are also some pictures in it. It's an easy read, but you get really an introduction to the foundations. And then there are also for each foundation, there are also practices or a practice for each one that you then can just start tune with and, get your entry into the tantric practice. And of course, if you like to learn more, you can contact us. And we have a number of workshops for women, for men, for couples, for singles, all of it.
Yeah, once you tune into sexual meditation, your life will never be the same. Things that you see, maybe that you've become resigned to not being, creating in your life, start to show up as possibility. A lot of what we oftentimes put on relationship in terms of, I'll be happy when I'm in a relationship, or I wouldn't feel that way if she didn't or he didn't say this or do that. We start to create. We start to look at the other in a way that allows them to be who they are, and really start to source what it is we want to create and bring more of in our life. So that's an ideal, thing to become aware of and start to have some way of bringing more of that into your life.
Yeah, and to be clear, that sexual meditation exists for the solo practice. So me practicing sexual meditation, then, which I often call self-love.
Not masturbation, so it's a different idea.
Unlike masturbation.
Oh, sorry.
That is goal-oriented. Self-love is about the journey, the exploration, the feeling, even if when sadness comes up, to not shy away and move towards it. Because when we allow sadness to flow, we come more into flow. When we try to hold back an emotion, there is more stuckness. And then there are partner sexual meditation practices where we do these sexual meditations together, and that can be very powerful. Of course, we need to prepare ourselves for this because we want to be there for each other in a whole new way. It's not just like mutual love making,
which is great. It's different.
Wonderful. The sexual meditation couples practices, they enhance the mutual lovemaking, take your mutual lovemaking to a whole new level. In the sexual meditation, we bring awareness, we bring dedication, we bring listening to each other that then, allows for new plateaus, for new heights.
Mm-hmm. Yes, beautiful. Thank you so much for offering that free ebook, as well as just all those other amazing resources that you guys have on your website. And as a reminder to everyone watching or listening, you can click the button below and head over to Dr. Elsbeth and Freddy's website to check out that free ebook or anything else that they've shared about. And then, are there any final insights you guys would like to share before we wrap up?
Learn sexual meditation.
You can tell Freddy really likes that.
Yes, I love his enthusiasm.
Yeah.
Yes.
And for me, is to connect with your heart daily and to keep or open your heart to yourself first and foremost. Then you can open it to another.
This is beautiful.
Absolutely beautiful. Thank you both so much for sharing your wisdom about tantric intimacy with us today.
Thank you, Brielle.
Thank you so much for your platform. Good to see you.
Yes, we're so glad to have you here with us at Avaiya. And I also want to thank our Avaiya students for joining us today. And we will see you again real soon. Take care.
Avaiya has changed my life.
Avaiya has made me the woman I am today.
Avaiya is my home.
Avaiya is personal freedom.
Avaiya is the reason my life continuously improves.
Let everyone in your life know about Avaiya.
Everyone needs to know about this amazing company.
Thank you, Avaiya, for appearing in my inbox.
What Ike Allen and Andy Anderson have created at Avaiya is what the world needs.